Here's Gene. Look up at the stars in the sky and he says, my God, I'm going to stride like a fantastic... Tick-a-tick-a-ting, tick-a-tong, rook-a-tick-a-toon, tick-a-toon, ra-da-da-da-choo, choo-choo, la-da-da-da-choo-choo-choo. Look right into my left eye. It's right over there by the field coil. That little cheesy speaker you're listening to me on. You look right in that eye, friends. I've got you. I've got you. You knew I'd get you. You knew we'd get you, Jim. A special news bulletin from Chelsea, Oklahoma. They have closed the public schools in Chelsea, Oklahoma on account of nits. Nits. Nits are lice, which take up residence in kids' hair. School nurses checking scalps in the elementary grades and in the 2 grades of high school found dozens of cases. School authorities prescribed a vacation and a good stiff shampoo for all of the school children of the entire town. Scratching his own head thoughtfully, John Van Dever, the only druggist in town, said, I sold out my entire stock of shampoo, but we're expecting a shipment by emergency flight coming in from Oklahoma City. Lice just crawling everywhere. Everywhere, I say. Yeah, the kids got the fleas, the kids got the lice, and now they're scratching. Oh, the kids got the lice. The kids are scratching everything. They're scratching. Now they're walking. Yeah, bring it up. The bear missed the train. Oh, the bear missed the train. The bear missed the train, and now he's walking. Hold it. But, you talk about the lice. They are really moving, and when I heard about that story, the lice, I remember one time. Did you ever actually see any lice in here? Well, there are those of us who have. And once you have, you'll never quite forget it. Nothing looks exactly the same after that because, hair is considered a beautiful thing. We got a real hair hang-up, a fetish. A little fetish. Yeah, I like fetish with a little Parmesan cheese on it. If it's overcooked, it gets a little too soft. But fettuccine is the multiple of it. But you take a little fetish like hair, which we've got in our time. Every major society in the period of its decline develops fetishes, or fetishi, or fettuccine. It depends on the language you speak. Yes, indeedy mo. And hey, have you noticed that I'm really very sarcastic tonight? What is it with me here? But every major society, when it's in the period of its decline, experiences physical fetishes. For example, the Chinese, when the great dynasties of China were falling into a decline, they began to have a foot fetish. Yes, they did. They had a foot fetish. And people talked about feet constantly in China, and they bound them, and the foot was considered a very, very important part of a person's beauty. And so if a chick could have a foot that was like, 2.5 inches long, that was considered a fantastic foot. And they even got to the point where they had to carry them around. So they couldn't walk on their feet. They bound the feet and all that. That was supposed to be beautiful. Yes, that's what it was done for. Not religion. It was beauty. And so it even got to the point where they had to carry them around. They couldn't walk anymore, see. And that was the Chinese way. That was when they were in the decline. Of course, now there's a whole new ball game, and it's a whole new resurgence of stuff. So the Chinese went through a period of decline when their civilization became very old. And, tired, and they began to look around for things that were groovy. And they decided on the foot. And nobody else has done that, and it sets the Chinese apart. Now, the French, when they were in decline, they had a fetish, too. And their fetish was clothing. Did you know that they went through a thing just before the Great French Revolution where clothing became a national religion? We got a little of that going, too. But it became a national religion, and people spoke endlessly of clothes. And they wrote books on clothes. And it even got to the point where entire heavy buckram-bound volumes were written. and they still exist, on the exact placement of a button on a gentleman's sleeve. The exact placement. Now, you wouldn't think a guy could write a whole book on that, but if you got a fetish going, you can. I mean, that's a fetish, see? Well, now we're in the middle of a hair fetish, where the hair has become a major issue of beauty, and it even sets your attitude and your social standards and everything else. You know, if you want to really put a guy down, you say Charlie Brown, die-hard crew-cut quarterback. Well, that's a put down of the worst quality. You know, it's really laying it down. They don't say anything about how good his arm is, or whether he really calls a good play there on the third down. It's because he wears a crew cut, which automatically says something about Charlie. You know, he's deep in the slob world. As I said, anybody who's ever seen Lice in action, you never quite forget it. It changes the whole picture. The whole picture. And I'm just going to tell you an honest story about that. I'm just going to lay it out. I mean, I know a lot of you come from very nice homes. You've never seen any of this kind of stuff. But let me put it this way: the little humble louse does not know social barriers. He is not conscious of the fact that your old man is a vice president of the Midland National Bank. No way. All he knows is you got a great big juicy head there, and he's ready to bite into it. Yeah, he chomps away. So I'm squatting one day, happily whiling away my time and paying my dues in 4th grade, and Miss Robinette is up there blatting away, and the chalk is squeaking its way through lower education, and I'm sitting in the back of the room there. And the sun is coming in through the Venetian blinds. You know, this very thing. And I've never forgotten this scene. There are only about 5 or 6 scenes in my, just like anybody else, whoever you are, there's about 5 or 6 graphic scenes in your life, in your early life, that you remember absolutely clearly due to the traumatic, due to the traumatic overtones. So anyway, I'm sitting there. And you remember, I'm back in the S's. Now, that's way back in the back of the room. And I'm sitting in the S department there. Me and Schwartz and Helen Weathers was back there. And we had a guy named Scott Simonson who was back there. Oh, mean. Scott Simonson. He was the Adolf Eichmann of the S's. And, Scott would just, every once in a while, Scott Simonson sitting in the back there, to make sure he kept his minions under control. Just at random, his foot would come out and just kick you across the eye. Wham, you'd get a shot in the ribs, meaning sit still. Any smart stuff from you're going to get it in the recess. So we're sitting in the back there, and just like any other day, things are calm, and Miss Robinette's up there in the front going, and the chalk is going, you know how it is. It's after lunch, and you're kind of feeling. I had a gut full of Twinkies and salami sandwiches and Pepsi Cola and all the rest of the good stuff that goes into the growing of an American. I suspect that almost any one of us. I wonder whether scientists have made any investigation as to whether or not cola bean forms a deposit in the marrow of the bones. So that 2,000 years from now, when they discover our ossified remains and they're running them through the carbon-14, they discover this strange unknown element. And after a lot of hocus pocus and pouring stuff into little jugs and titration, all that stuff they do in the chem labs, somebody says, "But I cannot believe it. This is the derivative of the cola bean, which comes from Central America." And then we'll be known as the cola culture from that day on, see, because of the deposit found in all skeletons of this particular littoral, which will be, of course, the entire North American continent, and during one certain period in history. So we used to go out and drink the Pepsi. There were several ways of drinking Pepsi at the time. One of the best ways was to take the big 12-ounce bottle, put your thumb over the top, and shake it up and squirt it at Schwartz. This was always good for a laugh. And that's right, it's all over the place. And then Schwartz would have the grape. He had knee-high grape, which he would shake up and squirt on you. And then somebody would squirt his dad's old-fashioned root beer on all three of you. And then you'd wind up sitting there late in the afternoon. It's all starting to ferment. It's all over your shirt and all that, and you're smelling. And, the Twinkies are beginning to pulp. We used to drink Pepsi-Cola and wash down banana Twinkies with it. It's a great combination. Just fantastic. And Schwartz, he used to have a strange sandwich that he would bring in his lunch. Now, I'm just telling you an actual sandwich this guy used to bring in his lunch. You think I'm inventing it? It's a fact. And there are other people who eat this. Don't ask me why. You take bread, like white bread, and you put peanut butter on it. At which point, then you slice bananas on that. Right. But then you put over it Heinz's hot ketchup. Now, I'm telling you, Schwartz loved it. Now, don't you look disbelieving. It's the truth. He loved it. So you mix that with the Twinkies and the Pepsi-Cola, you have a heady mixture. And so Schwartz is sitting there just, exuding, and old Scott Simonson is kicking me once in a while, and everything's going cool. And about 3 or 4 weeks prior to this particular traumatic event, a historic milestone had occurred in our class. A new girl had come into the class, which is always the sign for great excitement among the males. You agree with that? And her name was, well, for one of I will change it slightly. She may be out there listening. Her name was Dolores Smith. She was in the S's, right? That was not her real name, but it's close enough for jazz. She is sitting directly ahead of me, and there wasn't a kid in the class who was not out of his bird about this chick. She had replaced the previous star of our class. And there was a little bitterness about it. Every class has one girl that is the leading chick. The leading spectacular chick. Up to this point, Patty Romali had been the unquestioned, unbelievable sex bomb of Miss Robinette's 4th grade class. She was fantastic. Even now, when I think of Patty Romali, I start to sweat. She just unbelievable. She really was. And she continued to be that way. That's what sometimes is so maddening. Talent sometimes shows itself very early. Often it shows itself very late. Most often it never shows itself. But Patty Romali, from about the 3rd grade on, she was the leading, just incredible. And by the time Patty Romali was in high school, there would be formation squadrons of guys, accompanying her. With their tongues hanging out, with sweat on their noses. Looking real nervous, and they're talking real soft to her and all that. Patty Romali is just unbelievable. But she was replaced, if you can imagine, by Dolores Smith. Dolores Smith walked indeed upon clouds of beauty and glory. When she drifted into that class, you just knew that you just know, you just somehow. It was out. She first of all, she had a cool, icy quality, which was quite the opposite of Patty Romali. Patty Romali was let's put it this way. Patty Romali was, in a way, the quintessence. She would have been loved by Roone Arledge. You know how during the football games, when they're broadcasting, they always pick up this fantastic chick on the sidelines with the little white thing, with the sweater, doing the things, with the cheer? Well, Patty Romali, believe me, would have replaced the Arkansas-Oklahoma game any day of the week. She was the epitome of drum majorism. She was round in the right places. The kind that's round. Some bulge. This one was round. It was and even in 4th grade, you just knew it. There was a stirring, an awakening among the males when Patty Romali came in. But Patty Romali bounced in. Patty just exuded that. She had dimples where there shouldn't be dimples. That kind of thing. Dolores Smith was the entire other end of the scale. Dolores Smith was cool like Diana of the Hunt. Even in 4th grade, she was chiseled. Alabaster. The kind of cheekbones that you could cut your hand on. She had cool, ice blue-gray eyes. And she just was so much on top of it. That was the word, on top of it. Now, I'll tell you, the reason, really, there are many reasons. One of the main reasons was she came from Chicago. Well, you know, Chicago. That's the big time. We were squatting out there in Hammond, Indiana. You know, this is you know, Hammond, Indiana. The biggest thing in town is the Bull Durham sign. You know, yeah, there was a big uproar in town about the Bull Durham sign. They put a Bull Durham sign up on the outside of, just right by the city limits. You know, where they had all the signs that says Rotary Club meets on Wednesday. You've seen those things, resume speed and all that stuff. Well, there was a gigantic Bull Durham sign. And what was worse, this Bull Durham sign was exceedingly realistic. Now, I do not have to draw graphic pictures to you, do I? I mean, this Bull Durham, he was fully equipped. I mean, let's put it even this way. He was rampantly fully equipped. Aggressively. And next to him there was a fence. And underneath it was the slogan of the Bull Durham Company, or at least of the Bull Durham Bull. It said, "Her hero." Well, I just want to I'm not inventing it. I just want to tell you there was a hell of a furor over that. I want to tell you this. And, of course, there were thunderous orations from the pulpits. And all the kids, about 12 million kids, would go down there every day and look at this thing. It was fantastic. You know, this giant bull looking on. And, man, he was on top of it. He just, you know, well, one thing led to the next. And they wound up by painting bricks in the fence. So now he's looking over the top of a fence, and all you saw, it's bad news. There's always soreheads in every crowd. George, there's always killjoys. Well, Dolores Smith entered our lives like a silver bullet. And she was aloof. That was another thing about Dolores. Dolores was aloof. When everybody's out on the playground, doing that stuff, pum, pum, pull away and all that jazz, and running around hitting each other and tearing other guys' sheepskin coats, the usual stuff that's going on out in the playground, looking at dirty books and stuff, which we did quite a bit. It is believed by fond believers that pornography is a new thing. How far can one get from the truth? How far can one stray from the path of fidelity to true history? Pornography is a new thing. Why, I learned to read with those little blue books with Maggie and Jiggs in them. I learned to read. That's the first motivation I ever had to actually read. Up to that point, who can get interested in the, Raggedy Ann or Raggedy Andy, this stuff? I mean, the minute that stuff started to circulate around the playground, man, guys started to learn real quick how to read, because you want to know what they were saying. Little balloons coming out of their mouths with those unbelievable pictures. So that was the real motivation. I suspect that's the way you could get kids to read in 4th grade. Start handing out some porny literature, Oh, wow, would they learn to read fast. Motivation is all, friends. I mean, no kid's going to learn how to read because he's reading a book called A Day with Your Fireman. Oh, come on. Go around town with the postman. That's about as dull, as taking a walk to the A&P. But nevertheless, we'd learned to read, see. So the word was out, that this girl was, fantastic. And she would just stand over. We'd go out for recess. And, of course, we all would, dig recess. Recess is a whole big thing. And we'd run around, yell and holler and do all that stuff. You know what kids do. She was above recess. I mean, what are you going to do? Can you imagine a graduate school at NYU? You say, oh, it's time for recess, kids. Go on out. Forget it. Well, she was already in that rarefied atmosphere. And so Dolores would look vaguely pained, recess, and she would stand over by the steps and commune with whatever it is that beautiful girls commune with, which is, another thing. You know how it is, Nick. You and I, we've gone out with some pretty good-looking chicks, and you know that they seem to commune with something else other than us, don't they? They're kind of yes, that's true. They're kind of related to something else. I don't know quite what it is, but that was Dolores. Well, that was a whole new ball game in the Warren G. Harding School, We're not quite used to that kind of a scene. Well, anyway, now the important part of this story is that she was an S. Now, up to that time, everybody in the S's had been kind of schlumpy. You know, there was Simonson, and Helen Weathers was sitting back there squatting with the S's, and poor old Chester Wisniewski, he was right behind Helen, you know, and Schwartz was only 2 feet 6 inches tall, you know, at that point. He weighed 220. And, you know, behind us was Zinsmeister, you know, he used to fade into the wallpaper, you know, just sit back there. He could disguise himself. He became a chameleon. He could look like a Venetian blind. And, you know, no, Miss Robinette can't call on a Venetian blind. You know, he could do everything to be invisible. He remains even that way today. But Dolores Smith would come back to the S's like an entire moving float in a Rose Bowl Day parade. She was a living, walking float. My God, silence would fall. Even Simonson, you know, stopped kicking people for one age. He'd sit back there, you know. Well, anyway, she sat directly in front of me. Directly in front of me. Right in front of me. And she had, I don't know how to express it, she even smelled great. You probably recognize this phenomenon too, haven't you, Nick? That there's something about beautiful girls that runs all the way through. She just had a sort of a smell of verdant hay cut, you know, in the bud of its life. She smelled like moonbeams laced with sun, dappling ancient streams of crystal clear water. Oh God. Shepherd, you're getting carried away. Well, there she was. She just, you know, most of us had a kind of a gamey aroma, you know, composed of, 2 years of eating Yankee Doodles and washing it down with Pepsi-Cola and root beer. And that kind of produces a different smell around a person. Not Dolores Smith. Well, one day, there wasn't one kid in the class that was not totally, you know, ape over Dolores. But none of us could quite approach her. It was rumored that she was going with someone in Princeton. Nobody in the class knew what the hell Princeton was. But it was some place called Princeton. We figured it was in Chicago. Well, you know, she's in 4th grade. And she was very, let's put it this way, precocious. And Patty Ramady was bugged. I mean, so was Helen. Well, they all were. Eileen Akers became morose. Eileen Akers had been deposed about the latter days of 2B. She was pretty good for the first couple of grades. Yeah, it's terrible to shoot your wad in 1B. And it's, you know, it's all over from that time on, downhill, you know, and you just keep fighting to keep your head above water from that day on. But Eileen Akers was that kind. For some reason, there was a great Eileen Akers vogue in 1st grade and early 2nd, and she quickly disappeared because she suddenly, her eyes went bad and she got very thick glasses. And then the braces came on, and after that, you know, forget it. You could hear the wind howling through her braces out on the playground, and that ended that, you know. Well, we're sitting out there with this historic moment in the Warren G. Harding. Well, this is when Shepherd became different, you know. This is you have these moments. I notice friends of mine who have never gone through these traumatic moments, they really believe in Raquel Welch. They really figure if they could meet Sophia Loren, their life would become complete. You know, everything would work. You know, well, maybe it was my terrible moment with Dolores Smith. I'm sitting in class on this historic day. I'm feeling kind of nice and warm. I've had a couple of Twinkies. I've had my Pepsi-Cola, and Simonson hasn't hit me, and everything is kind of cool back there. And Dolores is sitting directly ahead of me. Now, Dolores was a magnificent ash blonde. Her hair was like spun silver, and it floated. And I could see the sun coming down through the Venetian blinds to my left. And sitting directly ahead of me is Dolores Smith, exuding that strange aroma of sexuality. I didn't quite know what it was at that time, but all I know is it made me sweat all over. My socks were itching. Just sitting there. And the sun is bathing both of us in that beam of, when you know the word for sun in several languages relates to life itself, vitae, the force of life. And I could feel life charging through my gut like the sluice gates of passion have been opened. And you feel funny about it because you know the first time you felt that way about a chick, you don't know what it is, and you think you're sick or something. And I look over and I could see Schwartz. His rat face is gray with passion. The same thing is happening to him. And I'm looking at Dolores, and her hair is just floating down. It was long. It came down to her shoulder blades. And the sun is just trickling through it. And I got the impression that her hair was alive. It was beautiful. It seemed to float and move. And then something fell on my desk. I looked down. It is slowly traveling from east to west. It's about the size of a pinhead. I look at it. At first I thought it was, some kind of piece of dust or something. It is moving. Look at that little son of a gun. What is it? It's got little feelers. I look up again to see where it had come from. And I see several of them. In a long line. They appear to be carrying small hods of bricks. They're building a home or something. They're moving up and down the glorious ash blonde tresses of Dolores Smith. And then it hit me. I had never seen them in my life. We had gone through endless examinations in nurse office. They look at your hair and all that. Dolores Smith has got lice. Dolores Smith has got lice. Well, friends, nothing was the same. I can't quite explain what it did to me. First of all, I thought it was kind of groovy. But then, I don't know, it changed everything. Dolores Smith had bugs in her hair. Please, the kid's got the lice. The kid's got the lice. The kid's got the lice, and now he's scratching. Oh, sing it out, King. A little kazoo. Thank you, Nick. That may be, friends, a sickening story, but it also happens to be a true one. I'm just sorry that I had to do this to you. A night like this. I mean, I'm not here to explode your most cherished dreams. But I'll tell you this. Later close investigation proved that Eileen Akers did not have them. That was a very close laboratory inspection. She had thick glasses and she had braces on her teeth, but she did not have lice. And she had a willing spirit. And that'll go a long way. Yeah, Dolores Smith faded out of our life. About 2 weeks later, her old man got transferred to some exotic place like San Francisco. And I guess she carried the scourge out there. But she remains forever enshrined in my heart of unforgettable beauties I have known. The Madame Pompadour of the Warren G. Harding School. Yes, keep your powder dry, friends. Gee, I saw a guy mad running around here so bugged the other day in the sales department. I said, "What's the matter, Bob?" He said, "I forgot my hairspray." Times there are changing. It's blowing in the wind. Whatever happened to That reminds me, whatever happened to Bob Dylan, by the way? I see. You know, I always had a vague feeling that Bob Dylan was Tiny Tim. I can't figure out. Oh, well. Razzmatazz movie toot. Oh, you're singing good tonight, Fred. Yeah. Well, sir.
You've been listening to Gene Shepard, author, raconteur, and commentator on the contemporary scene.